Suddenly the Amazon, now only 20 yards from the island, went about. They'd heard the girl who was steering say, "Ready about," and saw the other duck to let the boom pass over. When she stood up again at once, holding some halyards in her hands, she began to haul downwards, hand over hand, and a little flagstaff with a flag on it went bobbing and jerking up to the masthead. "They're hoisting a flag," said John. The little staff straightened itself at the top of the mast, and the flag, a three-cornered one, blew out in the wind. Titty drew a long breath that nearly choked her. "It is," she said. The flag blowing out in the wind at the masthead of the little boat was black, and on it were white skull and two crossed bones.
"You know we can't really sail with the first breath of wind, not until everything is ready. Let's make a list of the things." "Compass," said John. "Kettle," said Susan. "A flag," said Titty. "I'll make one with a swallow on it." "Tents," said Roger. "Telescope," said John. "Saucepan, mugs, knives, forks, tea, sugar, milk," said Susan, writing as hard as she could go. "Spoons," said Roger. They kept remembering things and then getting stuck, and then remembering some more until there was no more room on the back of the telegram.
Through the trees on the western shore, she could see the steamer passing the island a long way off. She looked at it through the telescope. There were a lot of people on deck, and she could see one of the sailors at the wheel. Perhaps the people on the steamer were looking at the island. They did not know that there was nobody on the island except one able seaman who had been wrecked there 25 years before. Of course, that was because she had not waved a flag to show that she was there and waiting to be rescued. But who would wave a flag to be rescued if they had a desert island of their own? That was the thing that spoilt Robinson Crusoe. In the end, he came home. There never ought to be an end.
"What do you think of your crew? The best I ever shipped. Can they swim?" "Able seaman Titty can. The boy Roger still keeps one foot on the bottom. He must learn." "I don't keep a foot on the bottom all the time," said Roger. "You must learn as soon as possible not to keep it on the bottom, at all." "All right," said Roger. "That's all wrong, Roger," said Titty. "You ought to have said, 'Aye, aye, sir.'" Mother had drawn a swallow on a bit of paper, and Titty had cut one out of some blue serge that had once been a pair of knickerbockers. Then she had put the pattern on the white flag and cut out a place to fit it. Then she had sewn the edge of the blue swallow all the way around into the place for it in the white flag. When she had done, there was a fine white flag with a blue swallow flying across it, and it looked the same from both sides. Then she had fastened it onto the little wire flagstaff where the blue flag had been, so that it was ready to hoist to the masthead.
Farewell to you ladies of Spain, for we're under orders for to sail to old England, and we may never see you fair maidens again. We will really.
Swallows and Amazons means a lot to me because it's so honest. It's honest about dreaming and about, connecting with the land you're on in a creative manner.
They don't feel like books to me. They don't feel like stories. They feel like my friends. They're like people I know. The fact that he uses proper sailing terminology, it was language that I was familiar with as a child. And so, yes, it felt like they were my friends and they were my inspiration for what I wanted to do.
In a world where the furthest, the fastest, the strongest, the most difficult adventures are quite often prized, I think there's something really beautiful about something that's just quite gentle and quite achievable and isn't about going very far. It's about getting to know somewhere very intimately. And I think that's a really beautiful way of having an adventure that we perhaps have lost a bit.
For me, I never thought about my gender as a child, and I think part of it is because in this book, everyone has their strengths. There's no question of not being a good sailor just because you were a girl. And so as a young sailor and a young girl, that was absolutely brilliant. I could be the best at something.
My relationship with it has changed over time. When I first read it as a kid, I was introduced to it by my stepdad. It was the gentle sense of adventure felt like, oh, I could do that. My stepfather passed away in 2019 very unexpectedly, and the books have sort of taken on a different significance. They have become an anchor in a world where I'm kind of looking for different ways of finding comfort and different anchors. And actually moving to the Lake District was not because of swallows and amazons, but there was definitely like a lot of comfort in being in a landscape that felt familiar. It almost felt like a childhood, and it felt like that anchor was just there in a different way.
There's so much life in it and so much freedom and daring, but daring to let yourself dream and to explore and to really be in the experience of what you're doing and be fully present and love place and love that process of being in place.
What's the song they sing at the end of the voyage? Said Susan. Titty began, and the others joined in at once, for they all knew it.
And it's time for us to leave her. Leave her, Johnny, leave her. Oh, leave her, Johnny, leave her. For the voyage is done and the winds don't blow. And it's time for us to leave her. Leave her, Johnny.